So, hello and welcome to the Soul Sync podcast. I'm Jason Paul. Now, if you're joining me on this episode today, you're joining me at what is an incredibly challenging time for me. So, this episode probably isn't going to be the most upbeat episode, but I'm going to tell the story nonetheless. So, if you are new, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. So, I fully intended for this episode to basically be about the trance week that I went on at the Arthur Findlay College with Eileen Davis. And I went for 7 nights of trance, and my full intention on this kind of first episode back was to talk about that. But I left the course and drove home, and I'd been home literally 12 hours. Actually, no, a little bit longer than that, probably about 16 hours. And my brother, who lives in London, with my dad, and I live in Bristol with my mum, called up my mum to basically say, you need to come down to London immediately. And I was like, what's wrong? I knew that my dad had been a bit unwell, and he sort of put it down to a bad back, that the doctor put it down to kind of a muscular problem. And that was that. And as far as I was concerned, he was having an x-ray in regards to that. And my brother just said he's like just not well. So he put my dad on speakerphone, and my dad was just not really making much sense. He's not the best of communicators at the best of time, I have to say. Not the best communicator, but I could just tell he was in distress. So I called up my mum and said to her, we need to immediately call an ambulance because, he's not in a good way at all. My dad, meanwhile, was saying that he wanted to have a shower before the ambulance came because he hadn't been able to move for 2 days, which obviously was not sensible. So I was trying to talk him out to that, all the while longer saying to my mum, look, you need to call an ambulance. So she called it from Bristol. It went to the 999 call handler in this location, who then put it through to the location where they live. And honestly, within 5 minutes, the stars must have aligned. The ambulance came. They done his blood oxygen and his pulse and whatnot, all the observations, and they were all just like not good at all. So they took him, blue lighted him off to hospital. My brother got there in his car, and then literally an hour later, he was going down to theatre because they found out he had basically an infection. And I knew he'd had a urine infection not long ago, but he was given the antibiotics for that. But it turned out he'd had this infection that, because it had gone untreated, it's now turned into a superbug. And literally his life was in the balance. They immediately put him into a coma, took him down to theatre. And then hours later, so my mum then obviously starts rushing to London on the train. I then immediately go put her cat into the cattery in Weston-super-Mare, and then drive down the M4 with an electric car that's only got like 100 miles charged, stupidly, because I forgot to put it on charge when I got back from the college. But obviously I wasn't expecting to have to go out on an SOS mission. So I then went to London, got there. My dad had to stop the operation early because he was in so much trauma. He was there on life support with so many machines around him. It was just crazy. Blood transfusion, dialysis, just everything basically on turbo mode to try and keep him alive, essentially. So, oh God, this story is just going to go on and it's depressing, but I'll just keep on telling it now. It's like one of those moments where you either laugh or you either cry. And I think I've chosen the laughing route, which normally actually is my route with these kind of things. But we then got to the hospital. We were they just about stabilised him to some degree. It was like the early hours of the morning. So we went back to my dad's house. which I then found to be in a right old pickle, which had I known it was like that, obviously, that would have perhaps peaked I probably would have, without a shadow of a doubt, not listened to him and got him into the hospital. But he just wasn't, days before, it wasn't apparent. So, yeah, it got to the early hours of the morning. And then we went back, and then my brother got a call about an hour after being back to say he's now literally probably about to die. So you need to come immediately to the hospital. We got there, and then we slept there for a bit. And then it got to about 7 a.m, and he had just about stabilized. Honestly, I can't even remember what day we're on now. Anyway, let's fast forward this because I could just go on step by step here. So then it's just been like a roller coaster. So then basically he needed an operation to remove this infected back muscle tissue that if it wasn't removed, it was just going to eat away at all of his muscle and kill him anyway. So he had to have an operation. They tried to get him stable for the operation, but then he wasn't, so then they weren't going to do it. But then if they don't do it, he's going to die anyway. So then eventually, and this is kind of a weird or coincidence, but one of these things where, I do ask a lot of questions about the universe and our soul plan, and was certain things and synchronicities, was this all pre-planned? Was this all part of the plan? But so they were going to operate. They said, okay, yeah, we're going to go ahead and do the operation. It's really risky. But then my mum and brother, who used to work in that very hospital, but my mum had left years ago because, let me have a bit of water. Hang on 1 second. I'm talking so much, I'm getting a dry mouth. So my mum and brother used to work in that hospital. And this was years ago because my mum's worked for my company now for 9 years, but that's going through a tough time at the moment. That's a whole nother story. That looks like it's on some kind of brink of disaster. So, that would probably actually make a really nice episode in the future for manifesting, because I'm doing a lot of that at the moment using morphic fields, but not to side track there. So, yes, so my mum had basically used to work in that hospital. And she remembered a professor she used to make nice cups of tea for when she was a healthcare assistant. And she just bumped into him by chance, like about a year ago on a train, and they had a really nice conversation. And then my mum was kind of like, is there any point just reaching out to him, seeing if he's still a surgeon in this hospital? Turns out he's now like one of the lead surgeons in the hospital, who just happens to know the top surgeon in the hospital, who he really respects, who just happened to be the one that was in charge of my dad's case. He put a call in, and then immediately he was taken to theatre, and oh God, it was just all like, just crazy. Then all the while longer, I am just putting out requests on Facebook for healing, and oh my God, I'm just overwhelmed by the sheer love. It's one of these things where you just, times like this really put a lot of things into perspective, don't they? But so many people sent him healing, and he had so many moments where we thought that that's it, it's the end. That the healing has definitely worked, and I do believe in it. And there's nothing more I believe in than healing and the power of prayer. And it's 2 topics I keep reading more and more and more and more into. And it's just so funny how this all just kind of happened, because so where are we with him now? Essentially, he's had an operation. I have just returned not long ago back to my home to kind of sort things out. And do you know what? I thought to myself, do I even record an episode today and talk to all you lovely lots? And I thought, do you know what? If I don't record an episode today, it's just going to be one of those things where I go back on another hiatus, and then I don't get around to doing it. And I thought, do you know what? This journey of spirituality, of even some of the lessons I've learned recently, like I've really kind of understood about the role that the ego plays, and how, what you spend your sort of most of your life doing is unlearning a lot of the ego ways of thinking. And how the ego kind of tries to control oneself into believing that, the physical body is all that is. Because if you were to just think of love and light, then the ego would seek to exist. And there's just been, if you understood any of that, good luck to you there. But I've just understood a lot of things, and a lot of pennies have just dropped for me. And recently I've just started reading a book, and it's a book that's actually been intimidating me for a while, because when I was on a course not too long ago, a friend of mine, a really wise, one of these wise people that's just so wise beyond their years, was reading this book. And I said, oh, that looks like a really interesting book. And he very politely told me, this is more of a kind of course and something that you study over your life rather than a book. And then I said, what is the book called? And he said, A Course in Miracles. And I thought, that sounds interesting. And then he started talking about, kind of what the book references. And one of the first things the book referenced, I must say, and this was almost what made me put it down again, was it said, let me see if I can get this right. It said, nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Therein lies the power of God. And there in my ADHD brain, I just thought to myself, this seems like my kind of book. So I haven't read it for a while because I've got this thing in my mind, and I know it's a limiting belief, and it's obviously attached to one's ego. Unhelpful ego, go away, unhelpful ego, telling me that I actually, you're not a very good reader, Jason. You don't read books. But what I'd realised for a long time is I have often been hard on myself and done this punishing thing where, if I pick up a book and don't finish it, I almost say that's a book that's not completed. I can't read because I never finish a book. And then this very wise person, once again, this was another thing this very wise person said, honestly, was that you just obviously read what you need in that moment. What do you feel you need? And it made me realise, Jason, my God, man, you're giving yourself a hard time. Jesus. So, yes, this book's been staring at me, and I've kind of been putting it off reading it. But when I was on the Trance week, I didn't have any internet in my room, which the Wi-Fi was just absolutely shocking. But that was kind of such a beautiful thing, actually, because I had nothing but the book staring me in the face like, Jason, come on, read me. So I picked it up, and oh my God, I'm already like hooked on it, because it's just made so many interesting things about. It stated something that I thought, yeah, this is so interesting. It said that, the only intelligence is the intelligence of love, kind of Holy Spirit, and love and light, essentially. And you could tell I'm still digesting it, can't you? There's me trying to explain it. And it says, okay, so you've got the love and light and the Holy Spirit's intelligence. Or you've got the land of ego, perception, life, death, material objects. You are your body. And it basically said that way of being and existing is based on the scarcity principle, which is there is not enough to kind of go around. And it just made me, it's one thing to start reading these things, but then I think to myself, okay, the more I learn about all of this, how the hell do I integrate this and apply this to my life and not go round, I want to go round and always see the love, but, it's a lot to sort of think, okay, I know this. What am I going to do with this? And what does this now mean? And even like recently with, so for instance, the Trance week, when I went on it, the first couple of days, I tell you what, I just could not stop sleeping. I was just so tired, but it was like a type of sleep that I've never had. It was like really healing sleep. And I felt like I was being healed by spirit people, my spirit guides, because it was almost like I'd been healed when I woke up, and it was just crazy. And I often find when I go to that college, even though it's got a very different energy about it at the moment, it's got a very sort of it's just got a very different energy. If you've been to the college before, you'll know what I mean. It used to be, I feel like a lot more, when I walked in, I just felt like I was being embraced by love. And I think now it's just got quite an intense, but very, respectful energy, but it's a different energy, and I feel that if you're someone that's a sensitive or an empath, I feel that you can sort of pick up on those sort of well, obviously you can pick up on those kind of energetic shifts. So the first couple of days I basically just slept, did very well at attending just 4 classes, but again, Jason, don't be be hard on yourself. So I just slept, and then I kind of thought to myself, well, obviously my dad's had this condition for a while. This hasn't just happened in 2 days. So the spirit world obviously knew what was going on, probably gave me a load of healing. And I must say, even during this period, the other day when I was at my dad's bedside, obviously where I am at my mediumship development is I've realised I'm quite good at mental mediumship, and obviously what I want to do is stage mediumship, platform mediumship, whatever you want to call it. I love the collective energy of, a group of people. And when I am at like the college, for instance, and they say, Jason, would you like to come up? It kind of fills me with the absolute fear, like, the platform. But then I can't wait to go up, and I want to like run up there and do a sort of pirouette as I get up to the front and then, try and do the best job I can. But actually, I know now not to try too hard, because the trying is the issue, because that puts me into my mind. But that's a whole another subject in terms of mediumship. I'm just going to go off on a million different tangents on this episode, I think. So yeah, I'm kind of up to, I've done some really good platform bits of mediumship, but they're normally one reading. I haven't yet found the opportunity to go on a platform near me, but I totally know that when the time is right, the spirit world will just orchestrate that. And I've already said to them, look, if my calling really is the platform, then please, can you find me some platforms? That would be really great. Because there's not many churches near where I live. I think some people have got loads of like spiritualist churches, and I've kind of come to the belief that I need to, cut my teeth in the spiritualist churches and do that kind of thing first. But that's where I'm kind of at with that. I'm getting better at sitting in my energy every day, and I can really feel my guides around me. I can feel their energy. I can feel them giving me healing. Things do drop into my consciousness. But, I really want to kind of feel that I can have a better line of communication to them. And, at this particular point, for instance, that I'm going through with my dad, like I was at his bedside the other day in the hospital when he's there unconscious, I can feel so much spirit energy around me, like so much. And I was trying to do Reiki healing on him. I was playing in morphic fields, which I really believe in. Hang on a minute, another sip of water. I was playing in morphic fields that I really believed in. I really believe in. Honestly, they're absolutely incredible what they can do in terms of energy. So I was playing them those to sort of heal his cells into his ear. And I was also talking to him and I could just feel the spirit energy around me, and I can't tell you who's who. I can't tell you Peter from Adam at the moment, unfortunately. I can when I do a reading. See, this is the funny thing. When I do a reading for someone, yes, I know who I've got. But when it's like sitting for the guides, my friend recently said to me, done a reading for me, really good medium. She's going to come on this show soon, called Donna. Absolutely lovely. You're going to love her, I tell you. She's really good medium. Honestly, best reading I've ever had in my life is from the lovely Donna. But she, what did she say to me now? She said to me that, if you say to your guides, I want to meet you, I want to work with you, which is what I do. And I can feel them around me, but, I'm not feeling that like I'm getting lots of dialogue in the way that maybe I would like, but that's probably the problem. But, I still feel like I'm building up the foundations of a relationship. But I have to say that the way I've been on these 3 different courses that have all kind of synchronicity wise just dropped into the right place at the right time, and it's just happened like this, and it would never have happened like this because I would never have booked it this way, and I've just happened to go on these courses, are kind of all preparing me for this catalyst of change. And don't get me wrong, mediumship is really important to me. Platform mediumship is where I know I belong. To be on a platform near you somewhere one day, hopefully, we'll see. It's also good for me in just so many other ways because it's just given me so much guidance. Like the amount of people that have said to me, there's nothing like being like at the equivalent of Hogwarts on these courses with 70 to 100 other mediums from all around the world. And the conversations at the dinner table, honestly, it's probably like a lot of people would imagine Hogwarts is. But you know, you get a lot of insight. And one thing that's just come up for me so much recently is so much change is coming up for me. I keep getting that I'm going to be traveling more. I'm going to, you know, have just a lot of change. And I guess, you know, with things going how they've been going in a lot of different areas of my life, I just keep thinking, well, you know, this is all kind of preparing me for this moment. So I will speak about the trance more, and I'm going to that's definitely going to be the next episode that I do, where I'm going to talk about the trance states, what are they, where I think they belong in mediumship, how I'm going to use them moving forward. I'm also going to talk about my mediumship in general, and you know, I've learned so much from my mediumship recently, and I feel that I know a lot of people listen to this show who, I know you're curious souls, whether it's consciousness, the universe, truth. We're truth seekers, aren't we? We are at the Soul Sync. But, you know, there's a lot of you that have got passions in other areas. And if you're like me, you just get curious about these things. And there's so many things that might be going around my brain recently in terms of our path and what it means to be, you know, a soul, and, you know, questioning myself in terms of, you know, what is the true me, and trying to live life through a lens of love. And, you know, there's just so much we could talk about on this podcast. There really, really is. But I've also got up in the coming weeks as well for you some really nice guests coming on that are just such interesting people, honestly, I tell you. So I'm going to keep this episode short and sweet, but I wanted to come on because, you know, at times I've kind of felt with this podcast that I have to be the shiny soul sync Jason, which, you know, and it's really made me dig deep at times, especially during the time I had off, looking at, well, what does it mean to be spiritual when the human experience, yes, it's an illusion. You know, we're the only animal, you know, if you think about it, that's kind of incarnated on planet Earth that isn't, you know, attached to sort of God and to source with the ego. And you think, well, what does it mean to be human, and why do we have this experience? But then, you know, when we wake up, what does that mean when we awaken? And then how can we use that to live the most fulfilling life in tandem with our soul's plan? You know, how do we know if we're living our soul's plan, and what does it feel like to be living that? There is a lot we could talk about, really, isn't there? But I wanted to come on because it's not all shiny in the world of spiritual, and anyone that says, you know, the spiritual life is you know, all sunshine, rainbows, flowers is, but to be quite frank, they're lying to you, because it's not, you know, the human experience and what we have to go through is, you know, the reason we're here, because we're here to learn lessons. And some of the challenges that we face are really, really difficult. And my God, it can be really hard in times of adversity not to get caught up in the trappings of, you know, emotions. And, you know, what do you do with emotions? How do you deal with them? What's the best way to deal with them? Because we can talk about it a lot on this podcast, but I'm going to keep it short and sweet, because I want to conserve talking about areas that I'm passionate about on an episode that isn't when everything is like a hurricane. But, you know, thank you so much for a lot of messages of support that have been sent to me, and I will catch you soon. Much love.